Welcome to Honest Whispers Unboxing. On this video, I'll be unboxing Masters of the Universe Vintage Teela 5.5-inch action figure released by Super7 as part of the Vintage Collection line in May 2019. And this figure comes with a card with the origin, and on the back it does have a new and original artwork, and each figure has its own action. Teela has a power punch, so you twist her waist and basically she swings back with the punch. So this one, especially due to like the artwork and everything, I would definitely want to try to open this without like making a new crease or anything like that. I did try to pick out the best looking card, and of course painted figure. I did notice on the other figure that I didn't buy, her lips were painted a little bit weird, so it just looked like half of her mouth was like a Joker had a Joker smile, so it looked kind of weird. But this one overall, the painting I thought looked great. Usually in cases like this, I would try to just use my fingernail and point it out, but everything looks pretty nice and tightly sealed. So in cases like this, I might use a knife like this, something small and very thin. That way I might just try to slice in between somewhere. I would avoid the corner right here, because most likely when you start peeling, you're gonna get you're gonna create like a crease. Usually I would start here, somewhere on the top where I have a lot of space to work with, and that way I won't have as a big risk of making a crease. So what I might do is, of course, in something like this, you might want to elevate it, because if I had it flat on the ground, which you probably can't see, but basically the knife, what I'm trying to show you here is that the knife itself is not flat against the ground. So basically you're gonna be in an angle where you're kind of like either cutting the card or basically jabbing into the card. So what I would do is kind of put this on the edge, and that way the knife can be pretty much flat. And what I'll do is I'll hold down on the card and just try to slide this in, squeeze it in here, which really isn't working that well. The knife is kind of dull, and at the same time trying to be really careful here. And I do want to show you it in an angle. Left hand is probably not a good idea. Last thing I want to do is put too much force and all of a sudden end up jabbing the figure. So looks like I'll just kind of twist my hand, and then what I'll do is, rather than stabbing it, I'm gonna try to slice it in there, which basically worked like that. So now I did get something in there. So again, I'm just gonna go ahead and work on this area a little bit, and then kind of like peeling an apple peel or apple skin. Basically I'm putting it against the plastic of the bubble, so that way I can go ahead and try to minimize the paper I'm ripping. And of course you could tell just by looking at it, there's certain areas where you know it's not completely glued down. You could see some space between. Right here it is, I mean, it's definitely harder here where everything's kind of glued in there. So you don't see any air in between. Here, if I could kind of, you could see right there, inside of the card, there's some air in between. So you don't, in other words, it's not completely glued all the way, so it's gonna be easier to cut through here. So what I might do is try working on this side. And unfortunately, elevation is not going to work because the card's getting in the way. I'm just trying to keep the knife lifted upwards, or at least put pressure upwards, so that I can get this cut out of the way. So let me see if I could. I don't want to block the view with my finger. Okay, for a moment I had the knife angled down, so I did kind of cut into the paper. Last thing I want is the inside of the card to kind of rip out. Let me see if I could do this with my finger now. So as you can see, I already have some opened. So if I could use my finger, I'm going to hold down the card with one hand. I'm going to kind of pry it open little by little. And I'm hoping just the paper rips out. Okay, this part, again, there's not much space. I feel like there's putting too much pressure right here, which is causing it to create a crease, because I'm putting force down on the card and putting force upwards on the bubble. So here on this part, I'm going to go ahead and use the knife. Which I ended up cutting into the paper, which is the last thing I wanted to do. So rather than continuing forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here where it hasn't been cut. Yeah, at this point, it's almost like I'm doing more damage with the knife than just pulling it apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try prying it open here on this side. Again, what I'm doing is I'm putting pressure down here. I know my hand's in the way, but I'm trying to put the pressure down on the card while I use the other hand to pry it open. So let me see if I could use this angle. Again, I'm at that point where I feel like putting the pressure down here, lifting the bubble up, it's almost like it's starting to feel the bend on this part, just as I felt the bend on that part. So let me see if I could kind of lift this up and use this as an angle. And then I'll hold the card down from the top. Again, this is the last thing I wanted to happen, but unfortunately, it's a bit unavoidable. There it is. This is what I wanted. See, this is what I wanted to avoid. So Teela's sliding out. Let me go ahead and finish this bottom part. So that's kind of my fault right there with the knife. I dug into the paper a bit too much, so unfortunately it ended up cutting that part out. But still, overall, I do feel good about the keeping the card in its place. Now, unfortunately, now what I'm seeing is that due to me running the knife like this, I created an indented line on the front. Well, it's not like this is going to have a lot of value. I just wanted to keep it for this. So even if I maybe ended up cutting the artwork, at least the indented line's not going to be in the way. So let me show you where the indented line is. You can see right there off the reflection of the light. So this isn't something you could just see face forward like this. This is something you would actually have to kind of let me see if I could get that light again. So it looks like I do have to use the side angle. So yeah, very hard to see. So not going to worry about that too much. Here's the card. Very nice looking artwork. It looks like it's basically a copy of what the animation cell looked like in the actual original. Color's a little different compared to what the animation is. Here's the back of the card. Guess it's just reading this real quick. Not really an origin or anything like that. It's more about let's see, about the show itself, I guess, and then the original action figures, and then kind of a history of the character. And yeah, it's still pretty nice. Better than nothing, really. At first I thought it was like a little book, but at closer look I noticed it was just basically one page, one little cardboard. But the most important thing is here, the figure, and of course her accessories, which is a sword and a shield. Her legs come bagged, simple half bag. Let me see how well she stands. Well, right now her legs, as you can see, the bottom of her feet is off. The feet is more like a rotation. So let me see if I can get this. So rather than like up and down, it kind of rotates like this. So and due to her angle of her legs, it's not like she's a posable action figure. It looks like she does have pretty much one type of stance. No holes on the bottom, and unfortunately she is really not that stable. Due to her angle of her feet, she kind of tends to fall that way, no matter how flat I make both feet onto the surface. Of course, this Lazy Susan does have a rough edge, so let me see if I can do this without. Okay, I try to lift her arms to make it counterbalance. Unfortunately, she's not really standing on her own. Okay, so I'm gonna set her down for now. And then what I'm gonna do is, maybe if I add the weapons and the shield, or basically her sword and her shield, she might have a better weight balance. This comes back and taped. And of course the sword is jabbed in, so it made a hole there. Gotta take that sword out off that hole. And both hands differently shaped. This one, she has it like a flat, fingers all flat and straight. This one, she has the little hand with the grip. So looks like you have to, the only way you can do this, since you have the end right there, is to kind of pry this in, which I don't want to squeeze the thumb in there, so I'm wondering what the best way to put this sword in. Because I feel like if I just press the thing in, it's going to end up squeezing her fingers in, or squeeze her thumb in, which makes it a really tight fit. So like, I don't know if I should try to pry this open. I guess the best way is to start with the bottom of her hand, and then that way, there it is. So that way, instead of pushing the sword in like this, which possibly might squeeze the fingers or the thumb in, what I did is I started off in an angle, and then from here I kind of pushed it in. That way the thumb actually was pushed upwards rather than inwards, and it does have a nice tight fit, which I do like. It's not all loose, ready to kind of like fall off or anything. Let me see what her power punch looks like. It's just spring activated, something simple, which does have a good chance it might like break maybe later down the line, so that's not something I would want to use. In this cases where you have something like this plastic, last thing I want to do is start scraping the paint off her thing. So I want to see if I could find the most thinnest part of her wrist. I'll probably slide it in, and then from there I just kind of push it forward until it's kind of a tight fit. So there it is. And now, of course, with figures like this, I don't want her in some weird awkward pose. Probably just make it as natural looking pose. Maybe just hand down, hand and leg down. So yeah, unfortunately she has a standing issue, which I would definitely do a review on, because right now just unboxing itself takes a lot of time. So last thing I want on this would be like a 45-minute video. Let me see if there's only a way I can. I'm stretching her legs out further and further. It's almost like yeah, due to her narrow feet, and as you, I don't know if you could see, let me do a close-up here. Kind of got paused there. Let me see if I could. Let's see. Well, here's the narrow feet. And then I'm trying to, and there it is. You could see how you have this foot going, it's all in an angle, and then this one's going this way, so it's like it's almost impossible. Like I have to maybe eye it. Okay, looks like I could not separate, but I could kind of pull apart her legs a little bit. So with the wider stance and having it angled, let me see if I could continue working on this a bit here. What I'll do is a bit of a close-up, so you could at least see the feet. Well, I'll keep that off for now. So I'm just constantly adjusting, rotating, until both feet are completely flat. And there it is. But unfortunately, she has this weird lean going on. Let me see if I could find. Find the stance where her upper torso is a bit more straight. See, I feel like this is good, but now you could see her feet. Her left foot is not flat. So I did a rotation to make this flat, but now this one's lifted up. So let me see if I could just find that angle where both of them are flat. Yeah, unfortunately, this is the best I could do right now. Where both feet, let me put this on an elevation so you can see the feet. Where both feet are on the ground, and it kind of gives her this tilted look here. Like from the side, just kind of hunching over. So you can see how her torso is leaning a little bit to the side. It's not too bad. Let me see how she looks with the shield. And after putting it in once, I'm not seeing any kind of paint scraping, so this is kind of, at least the paint is pretty sturdy. So now with the shield, that same stance isn't working. Okay, barely working. So if I could just, if I end up hitting this, watch, she's just gonna fall. So now I'm gonna have to find something a little bit more stable. Again, she's still kind of leaning, which, I mean, it's just slightly, so it's not too bad, but she's very unstable just by moving her a little bit. That's a little better. Still a nice turnaround. At least, unlike the Grayscale Club version, or Club Grayscale one, her legs do fit in nicely. You don't see the, I guess, the joints as well. There it is. Very unstable. So yeah, if you just have it on a shelf, it'll probably be okay. If you have it on something like this, if you're rotating around, this won't be too, won't be too stable and end up falling. If you have a very shaky bookshelf or some kind of display case on a very, like, a shaky or like an unsturdy, table, like a little bump to the table, and it'll probably be a good chance she's gonna tip over. So let me go ahead and finish this rotation. And well, there it is. Unboxing Vintage Teela. Well, at least the bright side is that this will only cost you or set you back about $20 right now. So even due to this unstable situation, or I mean, this is just really unfortunate how unstable she is. Like, even if she's unstable, I wish her torso her stance was more straight. That's what I was thinking. Like in this angle, her stance, actually, I like her stance here. So I might have to pose her in this angle. Otherwise, if you're kind of in this angle, basically with her chest front, straight forward, or to her right side, she's gonna have a slight lean on her torso. So either way, really depends on the collector, what your preferences are. But still, overall, I think it's nice. I bought this at a local comic book store, and my way of trying to give support to the small businesses. Let me see if I could. No, looks like it. Bought another surface really makes a difference. So there you have it. Thank you for watching. Until next time. Continue reading the King James Version Bible and eat your vitamin C's daily.